Chapter 1. The Path to Independence. Ethan was born in a small American town where life always seemed predictable and static, and dreams appeared almost unattainable. From an early age, he faced the reality that the world was not built for those who differed from the majority. His parents, loving and devoted, always believed that their son could overcome any obstacle despite the challenges with his speech. In their home, every morning began with gentle conversations imbued with hope and faith in a better future, and every small achievement by Ethan was celebrated as a victory over the unseen forces of misunderstanding. As a child, Ethan would often sit by the window of their old wooden house, watching passers-by, as if trying to catch the glimpse of a smile, a gesture, or a fleeting look. He dreamed of the day his voice would ring out loud and clear, allowing him to share his thoughts with those around him. Yet life was harsh in showing him that words did not come easily, and each new day became a test of his resilience. In a classroom where most children exchanged remarks carelessly, Ethan often felt isolated, like an invisible figure in a crowd. His teachers tried to reassure him, explaining that true understanding arises not solely from sound, but from the sincerity of the heart. Even amid the taunts of his classmates, he learned patience and found solace in books, each page offering hope for a brighter tomorrow. At home, Ethan created a sanctuary where every book and drawing became a loyal friend. In the quiet glow of a desk lamp, he would spend hours jotting down his thoughts in a notebook, carefully choosing words to capture the full spectrum of his emotions. Each entry was a declaration of independence, a testament to his struggle to be heard in an unjust world. His parents' constant refrain, "Be brave, Ethan, your voice matters," echoed in his mind like a gentle hymn, capable of breaking through any barrier. In those moments, he felt that even if he couldn't speak in the conventional way, his soul was speaking for him, conveying all the depth of his feelings and experiences. Over time, Ethan began to realize that his difference was not only a limitation, but also a source of strength. He mastered the art of communication through gestures, facial expressions, and writing, each attempt becoming a small triumph over societal prejudice. His inner world was so rich that he could find solace in the smallest details: the rustle of leaves, the shimmer of sunset light, the warmth of a loved one's embrace. Evening walks through the ancient streets of his town offered moments of tranquility, during which he could forget the mockery and let his heart be filled with hope. With every encounter and every new day, his belief grew that even in a world full of cruelty and misunderstanding, one could find genuine kindness and sincerity. His school years became a period of personal discovery and early victories over his fears. He learned not to be ashamed of the way he communicated, but, instead, to take pride in his unique path. With each lesson and every kind word from a teacher, he understood that his voice, even if unspoken in the traditional sense, could still move hearts and change minds. His soul burned with the desire to transform the world, to make it a fairer and more understanding place. Every challenge he faced became a lesson, and every setback was a reason to start anew. In those moments, Ethan would quietly affirm to himself, "I deserve to be heard, and my voice is my tool for changing the world." His father, a man of unwavering character and deep wisdom, often said, "A person's strength is not measured by the words they speak, but by their actions and how they overcome adversity." These words became a guiding star for Ethan, helping him march forward even when it seemed the world was against him. Every evening, enveloped by the warmth of his family's love, Ethan dreamed of the day when he could prove that his unique way of communication was not a weakness, but a true treasure of the soul. In his eyes burned the fire of determination, and he knew that great achievements lay ahead. Thus began Ethan's journey toward independence, a path marked by pain, trials, and yet abundant hope. His life unfolded as a series of small steps, each one drawing him closer to the dream of a world that understood that true communication is born from the heart, not just from words. The inner flame ignited in his childhood became an inexhaustible source of strength, guiding him through every hardship and transforming him into the best version of himself. Chapter 2. Anticipation of Change. Fresh from the triumph of mastering a challenging online course, Ethan decided to celebrate his success in a quaint, welcoming restaurant, a place that had come to symbolize new beginnings for him. On his way to the establishment, a surge of excitement and anticipation swept over him. He felt as though today might finally be the day he would experience acceptance for who he truly was. Upon entering the restaurant, Ethan was immediately enveloped by a distinctive atmosphere: soft, ambient lighting, walls adorned with vintage photographs, and gentle music playing in the background, all creating a sense of homely comfort that allowed each patron to momentarily forget their worries. At the heart of his thoughts was the desire to prove to himself and to others that he could relish the moment even without his trusty blue-covered notebook, a constant companion that had always helped him communicate. Realizing that he had forgotten it in his bag, Ethan experienced a flicker of unease. The absence of that essential tool portended difficulties, for he had long relied on it to express himself clearly. Nevertheless, he resolved not to let such a minor setback spoil his celebration, for tonight was about change, a change that promised to redefine his life. Seated at his favorite table by the window, Ethan watched the world beyond the glass. Passers-by hurried along the street while the soft rays of the setting sun danced upon the pavement, as if reminding him that every moment is imbued with meaning. Outside, the world teemed with endless possibilities and hope. Inside, the restaurant exuded a calm harmony where every detail held significance. The scent of freshly baked bread, the flicker of light from elegant fixtures, and every subtle nuance of the environment converged to reassure Ethan that tonight, in the very heart of this little sanctuary, the winds of change were beginning to blow. As he scanned the menu with careful deliberation, Ethan realized that his choice was not just about satisfying a culinary craving, it symbolized the start of a new chapter in his life. The carefully crafted dish names evoked images of far-off lands and untrodden paths, each page of the menu transforming into a portal to a world where he could truly be himself, unburdened by past failures. The wait for his order took on a ritualistic quality, blending anticipation, hope, and the quiet confidence that even if the night brought challenges, he would overcome them with grace. Yet, amid the promise of this new beginning, a whisper of anxiety stirred within him, a concern about how the world might react to his unfamiliar mode of communication. But alongside that apprehension came the conviction that these moments of uncertainty were the very stepping stones to real change. Ethan gently reminded himself that tonight was not only a celebration of his academic success but also an opportunity to test the strength of his inner resolve. Deep within, he sensed that this evening would mark the start of an unfolding narrative, a narrative in which old fears would yield to newfound courage, and minor setbacks would give way to a profound sense of freedom and self-expression. And so, beneath the gentle murmur of background music and surrounded by warm, encouraging faces, Ethan sat at his table, poised to take that decisive first step toward transformation. His heart beat in rhythm with his hopeful anticipation, and his gaze, fixed out the window, conveyed that every new day is a chance to begin again, to believe in oneself and prove that the truest strength lies within. Chapter 3: Resistance and Humiliation. Just as the restaurant's tranquil atmosphere brimmed with the promise of change, a dramatic figure emerged, a catalyst destined to alter the course of the evening. It was Tyler, the waiter known for his curt demeanor and dismissive attitude, who approached Ethan's table with a look that immediately foretold trouble. His confident stride and icy, unyielding gaze suggested that he had already decided there would be no exceptions. The very first words that fell from his lips dripped with impatience, and in that instant, the air grew heavy with the impending drama. "Table for one, right?" Tyler sneered, his tone laced with ridicule, as if the very statement mocked Ethan's existence. With a sarcastic edge and hasty gestures, he seemed unwilling to spend a moment deciphering Ethan's attempts at communication. Sensing the rising tension, Ethan tried to indicate the dish he wished to order through gentle gestures, yet his familiar signals were met with cold indifference. Tyler's expression darkened, as though he believed that every attempt to communicate was futile. "Listen," he snapped sharply, "if you can't speak properly, maybe you should just leave." Those words, delivered with unmistakable aggression, reverberated through the dining room, leaving some guests frozen in disbelief and others clenching their lips in outrage. Ethan's eyes, brimming with a mix of apprehension and hurt, met the blatant cruelty, and for a moment, his hard-won confidence wavered under the weight of such disdain. For several agonizing minutes, Tyler continued to display his contempt, each movement and every sigh punctuated by sarcastic remarks that made it clear Ethan was nothing more than an inconvenience. Despite gathering every ounce of strength to reiterate his order using the only means he had, his expressive gestures, Ethan found his efforts rebuffed by Tyler's scornful laughter. "If you can't manage to place an order properly, then why even bother?" Tyler jeered, his voice rising with each caustic syllable, as if determined to leave no doubt about his contempt. The murmuring of the other patrons grew, and an oppressive silence fell over the room, each word from Tyler echoing as a judgment of injustice. Some guests seemed poised to intervene, yet the fear of disrupting the established order kept them mute, leaving Ethan isolated in his struggle. A look of pained humiliation crossed Ethan's face, yet he refused to break under the barrage of cruelty. His inner resolve, honed by years of battling for acknowledgement, urged him to press on. He attempted to explain himself not with words, but through sincere, heartfelt gestures that had once always resonated. But Tyler, unwilling to entertain any alternative perspective, merely smirked and raised an eyebrow before coldly declaring, "Your gestures aren't a proper way to communicate in a normal restaurant. There's no time for your performances here." That remark, saturated with derision, struck Ethan like a blow, leaving his heart momentarily frozen as if wounded. Even as he shook his head in a silent plea for dignity, every subsequent act of rudeness from Tyler deepened the internal conflict raging within him. Around him, the atmosphere thickened with collective dismay. Other guests exchanged glances of sympathy, silently affirming that such treatment was utterly unacceptable. Unperturbed by the shifting mood, Tyler persisted, his tone increasingly disdainful as he loudly expounded on how troublesome it was to serve someone who couldn't articulate their needs clearly. Every word he uttered seemed designed to belittle Ethan, making him feel as if his very presence was a burden. The emotional tension reached its zenith when Tyler, glancing at his watch with a frustrated air, suddenly slammed his hand on the table so forcefully that the cutlery trembled. In that split second, every sound in the room became a symbol of injustice, and the ensuing silence a desperate plea for change. Ethan's hands began to shake with suppressed sorrow as he clenched his fists, his eyes rising in determination to prove that he deserved respect, regardless of his limitations. In that charged moment, the dimming lights seemed to mirror the inner gloom, two worlds colliding, one of cruelty and one of quiet inner strength. Unspoken words, pained expressions, and Tyler's heavy breaths wove together a tapestry of despair and defiance. A moment pregnant with the possibility of transformation even amid deep hurt. And so, as humiliation and resistance merged into one bitter symphony, Ethan remained on the precipice between despair and hope, his gaze silently affirming that even the harshest trials hold within them the seed of change. A change that might one day prove that everyone deserves to be heard, no matter how they express themselves. Chapter 4. The Voice of Justice. Just when it seemed that the restaurant's atmosphere was saturated with nothing but the bitterness of humiliation, a transformative force entered the scene. At that very moment, when Tyler's cruel words threatened to seal Ethan's fate, a figure of calm determination stepped into the room. It was Will Smith, a celebrity whose name had long symbolized strength of spirit and compassion. His arrival, like a ray of light piercing a dark, oppressive sky, immediately captured the attention of everyone present. Will approached the center of the unfolding conflict slowly, his gaze first settling on Ethan, a young man whose eyes reflected both pain and the burgeoning resolve to persevere. Then his attention shifted to Tyler, whose rude mannerisms and mocking tone had, until now, gone unchallenged by the dining room's silent majority. With a measured yet unyielding posture, Will spoke in a clear, unwavering tone that cut through the oppressive silence like a bolt of lightning. "Enough," he declared, addressing Tyler. "Today, you're not only breaking the rules of decency, you're degrading a man who merely wants to enjoy his moment of achievement. No one deserves to be ridiculed for the way they express themselves." In that instant, the restaurant fell into a stunned hush, as every word from Will resonated like a firm rebuke. His words, delivered with a clarity and sincerity that left no room for misinterpretation, reverberated throughout the room. Tyler, caught off guard by this unexpected intervention, froze, unable to muster a reply. Stepping closer to Ethan, Will continued in a gentle yet resolute voice, "Ethan, I'm here to tell you that you deserve respect and understanding, regardless of how you communicate." His tone was both warm and authoritative, like a comforting embrace that promised protection from the callousness of the world. Then turning back to Tyler with an even sterner expression, Will continued, "We are all human, and every one of us has a right to dignity. The things you've said and done today are unacceptable. Do you not understand that by demeaning Ethan, you demean yourself and everyone around you? We live in a world that values empathy, a world where everyone deserves to be heard, even if their voice is silent." At these words, the tension in the room grew palpable, as if the very air awaited Tyler's response. Will Smith did not rush to finish his address. Instead, he stepped forward, using gestures and sign language to reassure Ethan, a quiet promise that this ordeal was but a fleeting challenge that would soon give way to positive change. His movements were deliberate and graceful, as if he had carefully chosen every word and gesture to convey one resounding message. Respect is not merely politeness, it is the foundation of our coexistence. Gradually, other patrons, once paralyzed by fear, began to murmur amongst themselves, exchanging looks of gratitude and astonishment. Some offered silent support to Ethan, while others shot Tyler looks that spoke volumes. This isn't right. In that instant, the restaurant's atmosphere began to transform, as cruelty yielded to a growing realization that every human being is worthy of respect, no matter how they choose to communicate. Today, Will continued, I want everyone here to understand that our strength does not lie in mocking one another's differences, but in uplifting each other, creating a space where every individual feels valued. His steady, confident voice rang out as a clarion call for change, melting away even the coldest remnants of indifference. Locking eyes with Tyler, Will's silent challenge left no doubt that there could be no tolerance for such blatant disrespect. Tyler, visibly shaken and at a loss for words, attempted to speak, but found his voice failing him under the weight of Will's truth. His face flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment, and though he tried to justify himself, every excuse fell flat against the unyielding logic of Will's compassionate insistence. The waiter, now diminished and remorseful, retreated slightly, his earlier arrogance replaced by a dawning realization of his mistake. Turning to the restaurant's owner, Will spoke quietly yet firmly, Today, you have witnessed that even in the most esteemed places, cruelty can lurk. I hope this incident serves as a catalyst for your staff to truly understand that respecting a person is not a mere formality, it's a fundamental necessity. These words, steeped in wisdom and personal conviction, resonated deeply with everyone present, sparking a collective desire for transformation. With each word Will uttered, the oppressive atmosphere in the restaurant began to dissolve. The despair that had filled the room was gradually replaced by an awareness of shared humanity. Ethan, feeling his heart lift with new hope, nodded in silent gratitude. His eyes, reflecting both relief and renewed determination, met Will's in a wordless exchange that confirmed the power of support beyond mere words. Thus, through the resounding voice of justice, the evening was irrevocably transformed. Not only was the offender held accountable, but every person present came to understand that change begins with one bold act, the act of acknowledging that every individual deserves to be heard and respected, regardless of how their voice may be expressed. Chapter 5. A New Dawn. In the aftermath of that fateful evening, when the voice of justice shattered the darkness of disrespect, the restaurant began to experience a profound change. The air, once thick with cruelty and condescension, now resonated with the promise of a new beginning, much like the fresh light of dawn that follows a long, starlit night. The very next day, the establishment's owner gathered the entire staff for a serious meeting, during which every member was made to understand that treating guests with dignity was not merely a duty, but a sacred responsibility. The pledge for change that Will Smith had so forcefully articulated became the spark that ignited a deep desire for transformation in everyone's hearts. From the early hours of that day, the shifts in the restaurant were unmistakable. Gone was the previous indifference and biting sarcasm. Instead, there was an air of empathy and genuine care. Tyler, who once epitomized arrogance and disdain, now appeared noticeably subdued and reflective, his manners transformed by the weight of his mistake. He exchanged apologetic glances with Ethan, his eyes conveying remorse and a sincere wish to make amends. Each staff member embraced this inner transformation, and conversations about the incident soon evolved into discussions on how best to treat every customer with respect, irrespective of their differences. Ethan, who had endured a storm of emotions that night, now felt the weight of relief lifting from his shoulders. Not only had he withstood the ordeal, but he had also become a symbol of change for those around him. A few days later, he decided to return to the restaurant, a place that now radiated warmth, acceptance, and support. At the entrance, he was greeted by a cheerful and welcoming staff, and on the wall hung a vibrant poster proclaiming, "Everyone is welcome here." This simple sign was a tangible testament that change was not only possible but had already taken root. Seated once again at his favorite table by the window, Ethan observed as the restaurant came alive in a new way. The waitstaff, striving to embody their renewed commitment, greeted every guest with genuine smiles and kind words. Every conversation was imbued with warmth and attentiveness. The atmosphere of transformation was evident in every detail, from freshly painted walls to the delighted expressions of patrons discussing the incident and sharing personal stories about the importance of compassion. Every element testified that past mistakes had been transformed into lessons and that those lessons were guiding the establishment toward a brighter, kinder future. Not only did the owner issue a public apology, but he also implemented a comprehensive training program for the staff focused on the principles of inclusion and respect. Experts were invited to teach the basics of sign language and effective communication with individuals who have special needs. These sessions, filled with honest discussions and practical exercises, helped everyone understand that true service excellence lies not only in efficiently taking orders, but in truly connecting with the customer's heart. The transformation was nothing short of revolutionary. The once indifferent team now embraced their roles as agents of kindness and respect. For Ethan, every visit to the restaurant transformed into a small celebration, a moment when he could not only savor a delicious meal, but also feel that his inherent dignity had been restored. His gaze, now filled with quiet joy, spoke volumes about his recovery and the realization that he was no longer alone in his struggle. Patrons, moved by the story of Will Smith's brave intervention, expressed their admiration for Ethan's resilience and shared their own experiences of overcoming adversity, reinforcing the belief that even a single act of kindness can change lives. Thus dawned a new day, a new dawn in which empathy, support, and respect reigned supreme. The energy of change permeated every corner of the restaurant, inspiring faith that goodness will always triumph over cruelty. As Ethan sat quietly, feeling the renewed warmth in his heart, he silently thanked fate for giving him the chance to be heard and accepted for who he truly was. His journey, a tapestry of trials, perseverance, and ultimate triumph, became a symbol that even the deepest wounds can heal when surrounded by people willing to extend a helping hand and affirm, "You deserve to be heard." This new dawn marked not only the beginning of a transformed chapter in Ethan's life, but also in the lives of all those who had been part of that life-changing evening. Though many challenges still lay ahead, everyone now believed that together, any barrier could be overcome, and a world founded on respect and kindness was well within reach.
If you enjoyed this story, we'd love for you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to continue sharing heartwarming, inspiring stories almost every day.